The art world was in an uproar. Elias van der Linde, the enigmatic genius, had vanished. He left behind a legacy of breathtaking landscapes, each more evocative than the last. But his final work remained unfinished, a canvas titled The Hidden Path. It depicted a swirling, almost abstract path leading into a forest. Whispers of the painting's meaning filled the art world. Some saw it as a reflection of van der Linde's tortured soul. Others believed it held the key to his disappearance.
I found myself drawn to the mystery. I'd always been captivated by van der Linde's work, feeling a strange connection to his art. I felt a growing certainty that the unfinished canvas held the answers I sought.
Determined to unravel the mystery, Elara embarked on a journey to van der Linde's last known location, a secluded studio nestled deep in the countryside. The studio stood on a windswept moor, shrouded in mist. It was as if time had forgotten this place, leaving it frozen in the moment van der Linde had left. The air hung heavy with the scent of linseed oil and turpentine. Empty easels stood like silent witnesses, and scattered paintbrushes hinted at a life abruptly interrupted.
I stepped cautiously inside, my heart pounding with anticipation. The studio was a chaotic masterpiece. Canvases leaned against every wall, each one a window into van der Linde's soul. But it was the unfinished canvas, the hidden path, that drew my attention. It dominated the room, emanating an eerie energy. The path in the painting seemed to beckon, promising answers if I dared to follow.
Van der Linde's presence lingered in every corner of the studio, a palpable echo of the man who had poured his heart onto these canvases. As Elara studied the unfinished canvas, she noticed something peculiar. The brushstrokes, usually so bold and confident, seemed hesitant, almost frantic in places.
I examined the swirling path, noticing subtle variations in color and texture. The deeper I looked, the more I realized that the brushstrokes weren't random. They seemed to form patterns, almost like a code waiting to be deciphered. I spent hours studying the canvas, losing myself in the interplay of light and shadow. The studio faded away, replaced by the rustling leaves and the damp earth of the painted forest. I traced the path with my finger, feeling the texture of the paint beneath my fingertips. Each stroke held a secret, a whisper of van der Linde's thoughts and fears.
The unfinished canvas was no longer just a painting, it was a map, and Elara was determined to follow where it led. Days turned into weeks as Elara immersed herself in the hidden path. She meticulously documented every brushstroke, every subtle variation in color and texture.
I discovered that the colors he used weren't random. They corresponded to specific locations he was known to frequent. A deep ochre for the cliffs near his childhood home, a vibrant cerulean for the lake where he found solace. The brushstrokes, too, held meaning. Short, choppy strokes represented anxiety, while long, flowing strokes signified peace and contentment. I realized that the hidden path wasn't unfinished. It was a visual diary, a map of van der Linde's inner landscape. The path, I now understood, wasn't a physical one, but a journey through the artist's memories and emotions.
Finally, after weeks of relentless study, Elara had a breakthrough. She arranged her sketches and notes, connecting the dots between van der Linde's life and the hidden language of his final masterpiece.
Armed with her newfound knowledge, Elara set out to retrace the path laid out in the hidden path. She followed the trail of brushstrokes, each one leading her closer to the heart of van der Linde's mystery. She visited the ochre-colored cliffs, feeling the same wind that had whipped at van der Linde's face as he painted. She sat by the cerulean lake, watching the sunlight dance on the water, just as it must have danced in his eyes. Each location she visited brought her closer to understanding the man behind the art. She felt his presence in the rustling leaves, in the whisper of the wind through the tall grass.
Following the map hidden within the painting, Elara journeyed deeper into the countryside. She navigated winding roads and crossed babbling brooks, the landscape mirroring the ever-changing textures of van der Linde's brushstrokes. And with each passing mile, the mystery deepened, pulling her further into its intricate web. The path led her to a secluded valley, nestled between rolling hills and bathed in the golden light of the setting sun. This was the end of the path, the heart of van der Linde's mystery. Deep in the valley, nestled among a grove of ancient trees, Elara stumbled upon a small cottage. It was almost completely hidden from view, its stone walls covered in ivy and its thatched roof nearly invisible beneath a blanket of moss.
A sense of trepidation washed over Elara as she approached the cottage. This was the culmination of her journey, the place where the path in the painting led. She knocked hesitantly on the weathered wooden door, her heart pounding in her chest. The door creaked open, revealing a dimly lit interior. A figure stood silhouetted against the warm glow emanating from a fireplace. Elara's breath caught in her throat. Could this be him? Had she finally found Elias van der Linde?
The figure gestured for her to enter. Elara stepped inside, her eyes slowly adjusting to the dim light.
As Elara's eyes adjusted to the dim light, she realized the figure standing before her was not Elias van der Linde. It was an elderly woman, her face etched with a lifetime of stories. Her eyes, though, held the same spark of creativity that Elara recognized from van der Linde's self-portraits.
"You must be the one who cracked Elias's code," the woman said, her voice raspy but kind. "He always did say his art would speak for him."
She introduced herself as Celeste, van der Linde's closest confidant and the keeper of his secrets. Celeste led Elara to a table piled high with sketches, diaries, and unfinished canvases. She explained that van der Linde hadn't disappeared. He had simply chosen to withdraw from the pressures of fame and the expectations of the art world.
"He sought solace in his art," Celeste said, "and in the peace of this valley." Celeste led Elara outside to a hidden garden bathed in the soft light of the setting sun. It was a riot of color and texture, a living, breathing embodiment of van der Linde's artistic vision. Flowers Elara had only seen in his paintings bloomed in vibrant profusion, their petals painted with an almost impossible array of hues. "Elias poured his heart into this garden," Celeste explained, "cultivating beauty in a way that words could never express." She pointed to a small easel tucked beneath a willow tree. On it rested a canvas, its back turned towards them.
Elara felt a lump form in her throat. This was it, the final piece of the puzzle. She approached the easel slowly, her hand trembling as she reached out to turn the canvas. Staring at her reflection, Elara finally understood. The hidden path wasn't a physical journey but a metaphorical one. It represented the journey of self-discovery, of finding meaning and beauty in unexpected places.
Van der Linde hadn't disappeared. He had simply chosen to live life on his own terms, away from the scrutiny and expectations of the world. He had found solace not in fame or fortune, but in the simple act of creation. His art was his voice, his garden, his sanctuary.
Elara realized that she hadn't just uncovered the secrets of a missing painter. She had discovered something about herself. She had found her own path, her own passion for art and the stories it could tell. And she knew that this was just the beginning of her own journey.
Elara left the cottage the next morning, her heart full of gratitude and a newfound sense of purpose. She carried with her the memory of Elias van der Linde, not as a recluse or a mystery, but as an artist who had lived life on his own terms. His legacy wasn't just in the breathtaking canvases he left behind, but in the inspiration he sparked in those who dared to follow his path.
Elara knew she would never forget her time in the valley, nor the lessons she learned from van der Linde's art. She understood that the true meaning of a masterpiece wasn't found in its monetary value or critical acclaim, but in its ability to move the soul and ignite the imagination.
And as she walked away from the cottage, the sun rising over the distant hills, Elara realized that the canvas doesn't just hold the paint. It holds the power to unlock hidden truths, to reveal the extraordinary in the ordinary, and to inspire generations to come. The world might never fully understand Elias van der Linde, but Elara knew his secret. He hadn't disappeared. He had simply stepped into his own masterpiece, leaving behind a trail of breadcrumbs for those brave enough to follow. And in that moment, Elara knew she would spend her life honoring his legacy, one brushstroke at a time.